Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of FTU Life After the Military. I'm your host, Tony Rodriguez. Thank you for tuning in for another week of this exciting podcast. So this past week was pretty exciting, right? Like I said, I flew out to Reno this week. There was a concert out there, and Drew was kind enough to meet me out there, and we went to this concert. We went to the Wasp concert. I'm sure most of you who are listening to this have no idea who Wasp is, and don't worry, you're not alone. Most people walking this planet have no idea who that band is. But it was a good time. It was great. I had probably the most fun I've had in years. And that leads me to, the topics that I wanted to talk about this week. Taking time for yourself and making sure that you enjoy life once you retire. We've paid our debt to our country, to society, and it's time for us not to just find gainful employment or something to do with our lives afterwards. It's time for us to enjoy our life, right? So for me, part of that was, I've said on here multiple times, I like going to concerts. Going out to Reno to see to see Wasp was very important. Now, again, this band, they play a lot in Europe, and, I could have flown out there to go see them. But there's two problems with that, right? One, I don't want to go to Europe. I think I'm one of the few people on the planet that I think I'd rather go back to Calcutta or Fallujah than go to Europe. I just don't like that place and don't ever want to go there ever again. If you like it, more power to you, have at it, go all you want, but I don't want anything to do with Europe. And two, because of my injuries, right, just flying an airplane now is very challenging. Flying out from, flew out of here in Fayetteville to Reno, so I had to stop in Atlanta, and from Atlanta I flew to Salt Lake, which is about a 4-hour flight. And then coming back, I flew from Los Angeles to Atlanta, which is about a 4-hour flight, right? And each time I had one carry-on, and the flight attendants were doing their job. And, they asked, hey, could you put your bag underneath your chair? Because we have other people who brought on, they didn't want to check their bags, right? So, of course, they show up with like 3 or 4 bags, and they're trying to put them all up overhead, and they asked, hey, would you mind putting your bag underneath your chair? And I had to say, yes, of course I mind, because of my disabilities, I'm unable to sit with my legs bent for more than 20 minutes. Now, I was willing to work with them, and I said, hey, if you let me get up and walk around the plane every 20 minutes and stretch in the aisle, then I have no problem. I'll do that. But if not, then I am physically unable to do this. As a combat veteran, I would like to help you, but I am physically unable to. I am now disabled. And I found that when you put things in those, when you put it in those terms, that people are real quick to realize, oh, damn, I asked the wrong person. And so what ended up happening was the morons who brought on way too much luggage, instead of checking it, had to get their bags and shove them underneath their chairs, right? Like, why should I suffer because these people are cheap? Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with their life, but that's their problem. That's not mine. So, we did our time, and, we're dealing with injuries, right? Physical and mental injuries. So it's okay to speak up, and people will never, they look at me and they say, well, you don't look disabled. Well, you don't look like you're a moron, but you are. So just because I don't look disabled doesn't mean I'm not, and that's the way you have to view things, right? People are going to say stupid things, and that's their problem. That's not our problem. Now, when I went to the concert, right, it was indoor, because of I don't like being surrounded by people, and I don't like the bright lights, right? So I knew I was going to have to, I guess just figure out how I was going to deal with this, because I wasn't going to miss this band. They haven't toured the States in like 20 years. They stay in Europe, so I had to figure it out, and I did. And for the most part, it was a really good time. We paid for the meet and greet, so we went. We got to meet the lead singer, Blackie Lawless, and it was great. And he took his time and he answered everybody's questions. We got to take a picture with him, and I got her T-shirt signed by him, and then the show itself was amazing. The guy's like 63 and he's moving around like he's 23. I wish I had half of his energy, and he can still actually sing. You see a lot of these groups that from the 80s, and they just can't sing anymore. And he could. Now at the very end, there was a drunk. The people standing right next to me, they were drunk. I'd be surprised if they even remembered the show. And one of the gentlemen, he was probably in his 50s. He was either in his 50s or he was in his 30s, and he's just had a really hard life and just didn't age very well. Either way, he started grabbing my arm at the end of the concert because he was excited, and I guess he wanted to mosh. I'm not sure what his problem was. But I had to push him off of me, right? I grabbed his arm and had to push him off. And, he had some choice words and whatever. That doesn't matter. That went on a couple of times, and told his little cholo-looking friend to hey, control your boy because he's getting on my nerves. And when I left, I was very happy because I got to see the concert. I got to hear it. I got to enjoy the time with my friend Drew, right? We had that experience. But at the same time, just the flashing lights and then dealing with that idiot, I had that feeling again of like when I was in Iraq, right? That after a combat of, trying to figure out what happened is I walked away. I didn't punch that guy out. So am I a coward? Did I handle it right? So I just felt a little off leaving the concert. And ultimately, who cares? Like, who cares about that guy? He's a moron. He's going to go back and live his moron life. Now, the good thing is it was in Reno, right? And I got to see these casinos. And I started referring to the casino area as the Valley of the Damned because the people in there look, if that's what living life is, it's like, sweet Jesus. It just looked very sad. I can't imagine going in there and just spending hours or days of my life just playing the slot machines. And the new slot machines, you don't even pull a handle anymore. You just press a button. It looked like the people from the cartoon Wall-E just were brought to life and sent out to Reno to go play the slot machines out there. And, there's more to life than just sitting there, getting free drinks and playing the dollar slot machines. If that's what you like, then have at it. Like, we should all do what makes us happy. What, just go do whatever you want to do. That's not for me. So right now, what I want to do is I just want to go ahead and play just a little bit. And so, if you don't like heavy metal music right now, it'd be a good time just to, I guess, shut the podcast off. So here you go. This was The Real Me by Wasp in the concert in Reno last Wednesday. So here you go. So that was Blackie Lawless. He's a lead singer from Wasp, and that very horrible singing that you heard, the screaming, that was me because I was having a blast, right? And yeah, I know I was this horrible, horrible scene. And who cares, man? I'm 48, right? And I flew across the country, and it was painful flying that entire flight. It took me, I don't know, about 13 hours to get there. And I was in pain every second that I was on that aircraft. And, I wanted to enjoy my time at that concert. And I did. And I didn't care who heard me sing because I didn't know anybody there. And honestly, out of the people there were probably 10 of us that were sober. And the majority of the people there probably didn't even remember the concert. So who cares? Who cares what they think, right? So, whatever you like to do in life, if it's listening to music, watching movies, if you have a French bulldog named Taco and he like putting his pictures on Instagram, then, go ahead, do that. Do what makes you happy and enjoy life. Now, the second part of this podcast is I want to talk about some things that I've seen on LinkedIn about transitioning, right? And it's going to sound like I'm being harsh on sergeant majors, but I'm not. Again, so the last command sergeant major I worked with and the last operation sergeant major, they were great. They were awesome. They knew how to work with people. They knew how to lead. And so I know when they leave the military, I know they're not going to have a problem. They're going to be able to transition. And if they need assistance, I know that they'll be smart enough to ask people instead of posting things on social media and LinkedIn and looking sad and pathetic. And I bring that up because, again, I'm mildly active on LinkedIn, right? Well, I looked on there today, and there was a command sergeant major who's retiring. I don't know who this individual was, but he had a nice picture of himself in the new dress uniform, right? So you look at that picture, it's like, wow, this guy, he must have it going. He must have everything figured out, right? Like he looks like a leader. And then he proceeded with this post that looked like it was about, I don't know, 1,000 words long, and it was basically him begging for help because he didn't plan accordingly. And what I'm going to ask is, if you're a sergeant major and you're getting out of the military, or if you have retired, could you please not put these posts on LinkedIn or social media? Because what you're doing is you're making all veterans look bad. You're making us all look pathetic. You're making us all look like we're morons and that we can't figure life out. Because when people get promoted to sergeant major, right, they like to post on all social media that, hey, I'm part of the 1% of the military, because only 1% gets promoted to this. And you should be very proud of your accomplishment. You worked hard and you earned that promotion. So you should post it. That's fine. Now, when you get out, what you're saying is, I didn't plan accordingly. I have nothing to fall back on. I don't know what I'm doing. Should I look for a job that's going to pay me well, or should I try to do something that I love, that's going to be fulfilling? What you're saying to people is that because you were in the military and you were enlisted, you never made decisions, that you only made suggestions, and that you're so brainwashed, you're so indoctrinated that you can't get out of that. You can't figure out how to be a normal human being anymore and make simple decisions. And if you're the sergeant major and you're the top 1%, then you're making the rest of us who never earned that rank look badly, because now recruiters and hiring managers are going to say, well, if this guy was the top, why would I look at somebody else below that? Because if the top guy can't figure it out, then I'm sure none of the other ones can either. So please stop posting on social media that you are totally and completely lost. Reach out to your friend, reach out to somebody you know and say, hey, I need assistance. Or again, you could email me here at arantoniorodriguez98@gmail.com, and I will help you out to the best of my ability. But please stop posting on social media. You just look goddamn pathetic. It's like you're making yourself look like a joke. And if I sound like I'm upset, I am. Because you're making the rest of us look bad. So get your act together, man. Like, stop being a buffoon. Okay, like I get it. You didn't plan accordingly. This day shit wasn't a secret. Like the day you decided to go indefinite, right? At year 10 or whatever, around that time frame, like you knew you had at least 10 years to figure it out. So if you didn't figure it out within 10 or 20 years, that's on you, bro. Like I don't know what to tell you. Again, I'm not very smart, but I figured out a long time ago that the Army is a war machine and it is not there for the individual. You were a sergeant major. You should know this. The Army is there to win wars, not to take care of the individual. So, you having problems is a you issue. Okay? Stop making the rest of us look bad. Please. Now, if you don't know what you want to do, then what I suggest is you should have some money saved up, right? That's part of the separating process. They ask you, like, how much money do you have saved, right? Well, you should have some money saved up. Then you're going to get your retirement pay. And as a sergeant major who did 30 years in, because that's what you said you did, that should be about 75% of your pay. Then I'm sure you're going to get something from the VA. You should be fine for at least 6 months. All right. So what I suggest is take your terminal leave, then take some more time off and go figure something out. All right. If you need help, there are all these organizations that are constantly posting on LinkedIn. If not, then go back. He was in the Army, so go back to whatever post you're in. You're stationed at and ask, like, hey man, can I go through SFL tap again so I can get some of the resources so I can find a job? But stop begging, because you just look like a moron. And yes, I know I sound like I'm hammering on sergeant majors, but I'm just tired of seeing all these retired sergeant majors that just, or better yet, just do like the rest of them. Go to your post wherever you came from and just find a job at range controller, right? And then you can live it up and be in charge of the ranges, and you can be a dictator again, and you can be in control of everything. But please just stop begging. Okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, be too rough on any sergeant majors out there, but it's, for the rest of us who are never earned the rank of sergeant major, we're trying to do the best we can, and we don't need former military people sending us back because they didn't figure things out. So again, if you need help, like there are plenty of resources out there. Hire our heroes, DAV. You can do, onward to opportunity. Those three are the ones that that always come to mind because they reach out to me, and so. Like on a weekly basis, I'm getting emails from them asking if I still need assistance. So if you need help just putting your resume together, just email me and I'll be more than happy to help you out. So, again, it's a holiday season. So I always like to talk about a little bit about mental health, right? Because that's important. I know for me, even though this past week was a lot of fun, it's still the holidays. And like I said, I miss my family, my parents and my sister. They've passed away a few years ago. And, it makes me sad. It brings me down. And then I think about the people that we've lost in the military, and that makes me sad too. So during this time, this of year, if you have just a free moment, like reach out to somebody who might not be doing as well as you are and just check on them just to see if they're all right. You never know. Just you sending a text saying, hey, bro, I'm thinking about you. That might be enough to get them to keep going for another day. Or that might just change your whole outlook on life. Like, hey, man, people do care about me. You never know. Just recently, I was told about this individual, a couple of people who got into a little bit of trouble when they were just recently, they're in the military and they got into a little bit of trouble. I'm not going to talk about this situation because one, I'm not in the military, so I really don't care about it. And two, even if I was in the military, it's none of my business, right? So the only reason why I bring it up is because when I got in trouble, I found out who my friends were and who were not. And the majority of the people I knew were just coworkers. They were not my friends. and I was treated like a leper, right? And I was asked multiple times, like, man, what, why I wasn't, but people would always say, like, hey, that guy, he's just so upset. He's always angry. He's just a bitter little man. It's like, yeah, I was, because that's how I was treated. And nobody ever reached out to try to help me, with the exception of the same people, right? Jesse, Drew, Junior, Al, John, Orlando. Just the same people all the time. Those are the few people that help, that reached out to try to help me. And what I'm saying is, just because somebody makes a mistake, that doesn't define them. We're human. We all make mistakes. I'd like to say, it's how you recover from your mistakes. Here's the thing. What does that mean? I don't know. Maybe you keep making the same mistakes, right? And you're not dead. As long as you're alive, you still have a chance to make your life better, to make yourself better, to improve. And that's all we can do, right? Is progress. Like in the Q&A with Blackie Lawless, we each got to ask a question, right? And people were asking these crazy questions. There was this one gentleman who asked, like, hey, on this one song, when you released it back in 1993, it was, 4 minutes and 1 second. And then you redid it. You re-released it 2 years ago, and it was 4 minutes and 21 seconds. Could you explain to me why it was 20 seconds longer? It's like, what's wrong with you, nerd? Right? Like, that's insane. And so I love that the guy just was that, he loved the band so much that he could tell that the song was an extra 20 seconds. I bought both albums and I had no idea, and I couldn't care less, right? And so when it came to my turn, I was telling Blackie Lawless, I said, hey, man, explain to him that I was in the military. He found out when he asked Drew a question, that we were both in the military. So I told him, like, hey, yeah, I was hit by an IED and an RPG, and I was drinking, and it was because I met Drew, and Drew helped me get over that, right? Like, but it's not like I was able to just stop drinking cold turkey, right? I started drinking like back in 2003, 2004 when I came back, and then 2008 it got really bad, and then about when I met Drew, that's when I started actively trying to stop, and I didn't stop until December 31st, 2015, right? And so how many times did I take my liquor, pour it down the drain, say, that's it, today is the last day, I'm never going to have a drink again, only to the next day go out and buy a 6-pack and then just pound them as quickly as I could, because I'm not perfect, right? But you practice, you try, you put in the effort, and before you know it, instead of trying to drink 12 beers in 12 minutes, I was getting down to, okay, well, maybe I'll drink 6 beers in over 4 hours. And then before you knew it, I was, okay, well, I'm only going to have 2 beers today. And by the time I got to, that date in 2015, December 31st, I really didn't need a drink. It was just to be social. And that after that day, I was like, I'm not going to do it ever again. And I haven't needed to, and I won't. So, just try to improve yourself a little bit at a time. Like, we have this idea that we have to be perfect and instant gratification, right? Like I said, I've been trying to lose some weight just to be a little healthy, right? During COVID, I ballooned up to probably about 218, 215, 218, down to 185. That took 2.5 years, so it's not something, progress and improvement isn't quick. It isn't a quick fix. So just be patient and keep at it. She came home for Thanksgiving and she said, hey, let's learn how to play Hey There, Delilah. And I was very happy about that, because Hey There, Delilah is a pretty easy song. It's like 6 chords I have to learn, and they just repeat themselves, and it's a very slow pace. So I was very happy, and I'm learning how to play it, and it's taking me a little bit of time, but I'm getting better. And so that's all we can do, right? Is just try to be, just try to improve ourselves. Just try to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And so with that, I just want to give a shout out to Lena's BFF Taco. Taco came back from Reno and got a gift for you, buddy. And I'm going to give it to your dad this week, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. All right. Lena says that you're her BFF, and I asked her if she wanted me to bring her something back, and she said no, that I had to bring something back for her BFF Taco. So you're going to get something, pal. All right. And for my Alabama Crimson Tide, my football team, we're playing in the Sugar Bowl, and I'm sure, I don't know who's playing. It might be Coach Saban might be suiting up and playing quarterback. I don't know. But I know the Crimson Tide will go out there and do their best. And the men's basketball team did very well, and they're also out there. They just beat two number ones in basketball, so that's awesome. And the women's soccer team made it to the Final Four in the soccer tournament. So very proud of you, young ladies. Keep up the good work. All right, so until next time, remember, you are special. You do have something that differentiates you from other people. All right, so just make sure you identify what that is, what that skill is, and maximize it. Take care of your physical and your mental health, all right, especially during this time of year. Until next time, zot, 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 and roll tide.